problem is here, they want white supremacy by ventriloquist effect. There is a black mouth moving, but a white idea through the running on the runway of the tongue of a figure who justifies and legitimates the white supremacist practices. We know that we can internalize in our own minds, in our own subconscious, and in our own bodies, the very principles that are undoing us. So to have a black face speaking in behalf of a white supremacist legacy is nothing new. And it is to the chagrin of those of us who study race that the white folk on the other side and the right wingers on the other side don't understand this is politics 101 and this is race, not even 101. What's beneath 101? It's the pre-K of race. You should understand the fact that if you tell black people, look, I support a Negro. Look, there is a person of color that I am in favor of, and that person of color happens to undermine and undercut and subvert the very principles about which we are concerned, you do yourself no service by pointing to them as an example of your racial progressivism.
Oh, what a clip, man. Because that particular Negro does not support what I think, they are no longer a Negro. They are simply a puppet of the white man. It's unbelievable.
No, you are obviously not black.
I'm obviously not black.
You ain't black, Amala.
You ain't black. If you don't believe what I believe, then you ain't black.
How does it feel to look like me?
I mean, honestly, I don't know. I mean, I guess it feels great. I feel like people don't treat me as if I look like you.
No, they send you a lot more love than
I get a lot more support.
A lot of creepy DMs.
People are a lot nicer to me. Yeah,
get.
yeah. I have a lot more of the quote unquote simps after me than you do.
That's fine. No, I'm fine with giving that up, relinquishing that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, these people don't want anyone to have a difference of opinion. That's what it really comes down to. The hippies from the 1960s and 70s who are all about free speech. I mean, the people who were in Berkeley in the 1960s talking about free speech, and the civil rights movement, the socialists, all these people who used to be all about free speech. The ACLU, all about free speech. And they were like, hey, if you have an unpopular opinion, you should be allowed to say it. We will die to preserve your right to have freedom of speech. And now it is no longer like that. Now it is if you have this difference of opinion than somebody else, it needs to be stamped out immediately because dissent means that they can't control you. If they say, oh, Amala is not white or not black because she says this different thing than all the other black people are supposed to say, then they can control you through that. They can control you through that lens.
And this is not new, particularly for MSNBC. We saw a black female host, I'm forgetting her name, but we covered this story on the show previously, who said the exact same line, that she sees a lot of black faces within the political sphere of influences that are black faces, but not black voices. And this is rhetoric that we are going to continue to hear because why? We have a lot of black people entering the realm of conservatism or classic liberalism, or at least deviating themselves from the left, whether that means declaring themselves independent or non-politically affiliated. We have a lot of black people leaving the Democratic left and saying, you know what, it doesn't align with my values anymore. And so long as that continues to happen, you will continue to hear this rhetoric. You will continue to hear that we have black faces, but not black voices. I can't say how many times I've had that been told to me.
I know. I see it. You just aren't allowed to say anything that's different. You are not allowed to say anything different from the status quo. I mean, look at the guy James Damore. This isn't even a black guy. I mean, this is James Damore who worked at Google. And he came out and said, hey, there are biological differences between men and women in his memo that he was talking about the culture of working at Google. It got leaked. And then what happens? They fire him for it. They fire him for having a difference of opinion. Right. They want to destroy any sort of dissent. They want total dominion over what you think. And for saying something, I mean, it is so obviously true that James Damore said. The things that you say, Amala, the things that we all say, I mean, they seem to be such common sense for people if they just heard it. But you can't have that common sense because that ruins the narrative for these people. They have a narrative that they are pushing. And even when Google fired James Damore, what did they say? They said, we need a culture of places where people feel safe to express their alternative political opinions. It's like that is the exact opposite of what you just did by firing this person.
Yep. And that's what they do is they scapegoat conservatives and say, well, you're the ones who are creating unsafe spaces. You are the ones who are cornering the market when it comes to intellectual discussion, political discussion. That's not the case at all. We're the ones being censored left and right on every single platform, on mainstream media. Nothing that we say gets airtime. And when it does, we get called white supremacists, even though Some of us are black, and simply denying the existence of systemic racism or simply not allowing that to be a factor in our lives. And that's what they'll continue to do. They'll see dissident people and they'll label them with white supremacy or transphobic or xenophobic. It's the same words thrown over and over again at people. And again, what does it do to the word? What does it do to the word white supremacist? It means nothing if you call me a white supremacist. It means absolutely nothing.
And they say that we're the dangerous ones. That's the funny part, that we're the ones that are causing a ruckus. Name me a conservative event or a left-wing event that has been destroyed or disrupted by conservatives in recent memory, specifically a college campus one. I have had multiple events of mine destroyed by college leftists. So many other people, Milo Yiannopoulos back in Berkeley, having his event at Berkeley totally destroyed by people throwing Molotov cocktails and breaking windows, committing like over $100,000 worth of damages at UC Berkeley. And you say, we are the ones who are creating this damage. It's like those girls in New York. I forget what their names were, but this was like a couple years ago. These girls in New York, these black girls, and they went to State University of New York in Albany. And they put out a whole statement that they were on this bus and this white mob of people attacked them. Hillary Clinton tweeted her support. The school did like a whole bus type of deal for it, like a whole celebration. And then it comes out later that actually these girls are the ones who started the fight with these white kids. And they said they turned it into a leftist racial issue so that they didn't get in trouble. I mean, to say that conservatives are the one who are starting all these problems, just straight up lie. It's propaganda by people who are trying to pit us against these people. It's just not true.
Yeah, and the side that labels people because of the way that they look, because of the way that they associate, because of their gender, their sexual orientation, the side that says because you are this, you must think this, is not systemically oppressive. That's not systemically racist to look at a black person and say, oh, well, because I'm looking at your outward appearance, you should believe this and you should say this. Is that not systemically racist? Can somebody...
They're racist. The left are the real racists.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. You are perpetuating the exact narrative that you claim to run from, separating young black kids into affinity groups from their white peers, ranking people by power and privilege, telling people that you have to use a compelled speech when it comes to pronouns. You are the ones oppressing people and changing the culture. You're certainly not the counterculture.
No, they are not. I mean, they are in charge of all of the major institutions. I mean, how can they say that this world is full of all these oppressive people when they are in charge of all the institutions? You won't find leftists, you can talk to leftists, they're going to say, yeah, the universities are controlled by the left, the mainstream media, Hollywood. Like, it's obvious. These people are leftists who are in control of these things. How can you say that you have this institutional racism and all of this when these things are all controlled by the left? It just doesn't make sense. What these major institutions forget about, because these institutions like Hollywood, mainstream media, bureaucracy in Washington, the universities, they are all at this higher level, this higher level that they say is a higher level, right? The middle class, the working class people in America, they're seen as the lesser people. That is what this is all about. It is a destruction of the middle class and the working classes of America. The people want to say that they're better than you. They know more about race than you. You have to think this certain way. Otherwise, you will be classified as one of these lower people. It is entirely a war of these elitists versus normal America. That's why these elections went the way that they did. Because these elitists were trying to get away with pitting us against each other and saying that, you know, these people are all wrong and it's because of white supremacy and racism and stuff. But people just aren't buying it anymore. People aren't buying it anymore, and they're understanding that there's a bigger thing at play here.